Hi, my name is Annamieka, and this is the Art Friends Show, where every conversation focuses on getting to know the essence of creativity itself. I'd love to invite you as well to join me inside of Art Friends School, where we go deeper into these topics and join in with other art friends around the world. Thanks so much for joining us, and let's get to the show. Welcome to the Art Friends Show. Here's an artist that I'd love you to know. Her name is Susan Hurwitch. She lives in Florida, and she's joining us today to talk about her art practice and so much of what it means to develop confidence as an artist. My name is Annamieka. I'm an artist in Portland, Oregon, and I'm hosting 100 Days of Art Friend interviews to explore developing a friendship with our creative self and each other. If you'd like to come on as a guest, there's a link in my profile. I would love to have you and talk to you about your art and art practice. At any point in your career, you are welcome, whether you are an emerging artist, established, or globally renowned. We all have something in common, and I think that it really helps each of us to find that sense of you're not alone. There's a lot to be found in our collective wisdom and creative process. All right, Susan, so I see you on the live. And if you do have a button to join, go ahead and request, and I'll navigate to invite you here from my top navigation. So hang tight. There we go. Hi. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the Art Friends Show. Thank you for coming on as a guest today. Can you just tell us your full name and where you live?
Sure. I'm Susan Hurwitch, and I'm a mixed media and collage artist in Sarasota, Florida.
Fabulous. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you about was this topic of developing confidence as an artist. Can you tell us some of the insight that you've had in that, both personally and as a teaching artist?
Okay, well, so I think we talked a little bit, Annamieka and I talked a little bit before we came on, but I think that there's a lot of fear sometimes associated with putting your creative self out there. I think part of that might be just because creating is such a personal thing. And so you're really putting a part of yourself out for people to, look at, and it's an expression of yourself. And so when I first retired and hadn't been doing art for a while, I'd been doing creative things, but not painting in particular. I wanted to take a painting class, and I went to a demo day with a bunch of instructors, and one of the instructors was a painting instructor, and I said, do you teach beginners? Because of course I was considering myself a beginner, and he said, oh no. So I didn't take his class, but I took another class, and it turned out to be the most wonderful experience. It was a collage class. I had no intention of ever doing collage. Oh, wow. And so that was really how collage became a part of my art practice. So I did end up taking the other painting class, but it's really about sort of taking that step and learning about the barriers that we place on ourselves, really, sometimes, and getting over those hurdles.
What helped you overcome that hurdle?
I think it's like, well, I can tell just from the little bit that we've kind of shared together that being prepared is one thing too. I'm doing a lot of reading and kind of developing a sense of what it is that you want to do, but also just in the doing is where you're going to grow. You're never going to grow if you don't just start somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And I always say comparison is a confidence killer too. We have so much available to us on the internet, and we see so much talent out there, and I mean, it's incredible. And there are things that, you also have to manage your expectations of what it is that you're able to create at the moment, and work, and work on identifying what things you want to improve.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. yeah, we can get inspired, but we can also completely take the wind out of our own sails.
Exactly.
Innate creativity and like unique insight.
Right.
Because we have access to so much. You have a really interesting parallel in your life between professional golfing and making art. Y'all, one of her two daughters was a PGA golf pro. Can you tell us about that and how that's informed your experience? Yeah.
So there are a lot of interesting pieces that I feel like make up who I am as an artist. And, one of them is, I have a mom who was very creative, very talented, and she was an avid gardener, and I can't grow a plant, but I can paint. But I can paint flowers. Yes. So to me, that's where my garden is.
That's your gardening.
In my paintings. And I have one daughter who's incredibly creative. She's a photographer, and she has her own photography business. And I've always felt too, in raising children, it'd be interesting for you having, a young daughter, how much our children can teach us, especially if we're open to that. We always feel like, I think in some ways that we have to teach our kids, but boy, there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from them as well, So watching my one daughter really step out and become, very creative dramatically and in her own photography and in her own business has really been inspiring for me. And then having another daughter who's an athlete, and I never thought I'd have an athlete in the family because, to me, PE was the bane of my existence.
They really are their own people, Yeah.
So, I got into golf with her and now have become a very avid golfer. But in watching her work to excel in golf, I found a lot of parallels to art. Art, like golf, is a very individual pursuit. You're in a lot of instances, your wins are your wins, and your defeats are your defeats as well. And then watching the most important thing for me was, every kid has the big goal if they're in golf of like winning, whatever it is, being on the LPGA tour and winning an event, So those are the big goals that we always dream of that, we may not ever attain, but there's all the incremental goals. And those are where the real confidence building comes, and where I think we grow the most.
Wow.
If you can set realistic expectations for yourself along the way, and then strive to get those in place, it's a journey. It's not, it's not something that you suddenly wake up and, there are very innately talented people, but there's a lot of growth in between.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. So many zingers in there. Wow. Hang on a minute. Okay. So there's working backwards. There's this idea of, dreaming the big dreams, like having our big goals, and then whether it takes that exact form or not. An example of golf, like winning the PGA Tour. I don't know much about golf, so forgive me.
That's all right.
And then in art, perhaps it's like, I want to publish a book. I want this to turn into like a really entertaining sketch comedy TV show somehow. I think that'd be so fun. Those are huge goals, but I bring it down to, who do I need to be each day to be the person who those goals are obvious for, right? Who do we need to be each day, and what are those habits, what are those practices, etc., to live into those goals? And then we're getting like what the goal would give us, right?
Right.
It allows you to be that artist or that golfer. Yeah. And you were sharing about your kids teaching you, and goodness, as a mother, whew, yes. And I just had a conversation with my mom, who is in the publishing process of her memoir.
Oh,
of her
exciting.
Yeah, she's a writer and a healing artist, sound healer, and many things. And she was like, Mika, you'll get this when you're my age, but I am learning from you. And I was like, sure, yeah. But like, I do hear that, right? I do hear that. And so we liberate each other,
Yes.
or we can, yeah.
Well, and you all are also, in a different generation with access to different things than we may have had, because I feel like, there are times for women that are my age, and there are a lot of us who, end up pursuing art after after a career or after raising children.
Yeah.
And, you may feel like, well, maybe time has passed me by, but, I had little cottage businesses.
Really?
But boy, I didn't have access to the things that you all have, with the internet and where it was much, even if I had wanted to build something, I didn't have the tools that are available now. So it's always so fascinating for me to watch you all utilizing the tools that you have.
Yeah, there's never been a better time in history to be a self-represented artist.
Right.
We have direct connection to our audience as long as we are brave enough to share.
But it can also be overwhelming. That's the other piece.
Yeah.
And that's another, time management and all of that is such a big part of it, because I've really had to work on, you were mentioning that it looks like I've built, an art, and I do feel like I've built an art practice, but I've really had to think about how is that going to look like, what's that going to look like for me in the context of where I am in my stage of life and what it is that I still, the things that I still want to do, the things that feed me, and so you do have to get clear about where it is that you're going, because you can end up, the shiny object syndrome, where you're chasing after everything and not getting anything done, and I think women fall into that trap a lot. So
struggling a lot. Yeah. Yes. We can return to the topic of balance. I would like to ask you to show us some of your art.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
talk about your teaching.
So yes, I'm so excited. I had taught a little bit pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, and I actually just sent out my latest issue of my newsletter, and
Cool.
and I talk about, for me, that COVID was like actually a positive, if you can find a positive in it, in that it was sort of like a self-imposed sabbatical for me to figure out all those things I was talking about, where I was going to go. And one of the things was really kind of to move back into teaching and looking for opportunities. So one of the classes that I taught is a Blossoms and Blooms, and it's a mixed class, and I just gave that one at a local inn. And so, what I like to do, my process is to combine collage with acrylic painting in a way that the viewer has to kind of really look at it to see, where does the collage begin and where does the painting begin, that they merged enough that you can't really tell, but to me it gives it that real textural quality. And so I just love
that. I love that. It's so dynamic. You're getting a bunch of hearts from the people watching it live. Show us another. Let's see.
And then I'm working on, this was a 2-day, and I'm trying to work on something, because I had all skill levels in this class, and I loved the fact it was a small class. We could do a lot of one-on-one, which I absolutely love. But I'm also trying to do a kind of a shorter class to just introduce people to the process. And so I'm doing one on butterflies.
Oh, neat.
And what I love about this is not just the exploration with color, but symmetry, and how symmetry works in a piece. So that's what's on the horizon.
Very cool.
With teaching. Yeah.
So lovely. I love, y'all go dig through her profile. She's done a really good job of sharing the world. I love just seeing these peeks into your studio and your process, and some of your really large, elaborate pieces, as well as these single concept, critter portraits. And it's so great. And I can tell that you're a very loving, welcoming teacher.
Yeah.
And And that,
yeah, I enjoy that a lot, and I really do try to incorporate the confidence component
yeah.
with teaching, because I think sometimes it's easy to just give the, the process piece without, the encouragement sometimes that
Totally.
people are really looking for.
I used to, at the beginning of my mentoring program, I had everyone stand in like Superwoman pose just to feel like how it feels to be like, this is my space and I am here, and just take up space. And, I tend to attract women, non-binary folk, a few men,
Right.
and it's a lot of the work is really in owning our voice. It's also in trusting ourselves and developing confidence by doing what we repeatedly intend to do.
Right. No,
Yeah.
you're right. Same thing. It's like that, you should make yourself big, which I think is sometimes very hard when you've,
Yeah.
kind of, when you're creating art, you're looking inward a lot. So
Yeah.
it's very hard sometimes to put yourself out.
I hear you. I'm getting this like really strong, clear guidance to make very large paintings next.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've been kind of arguing, like, really? But yeah, like really big and like take up a lot of space, and even like the drawings on them be kind of big and loose, like the whole thing.
Yes.
Be
Well, it's funny that you talk about that too, because in process, when I first moved here, I actually have a studio that we added on to our house. So I'm very lucky. I could talk about a very supportive husband, but
yeah.
when we first moved in here, I worked in our laundry room. So everything, little small pieces. And, I'm one of those people that falls into that trap of like getting into, where you're just too close in and not loose enough. And I actually thought it would be the other way around, that I would get like so overwhelmed with a big canvas. But once I started to work big, I got much looser. It's much more of a big body movement.
Yes, it's like the whole arm movement versus like the heady.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. I totally hear you.
Yeah.
I've been...
Nobody hasn't tried working big. It's a fun exercise. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is great advice. Yeah, jumping scale can be such a great way.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping scale or changing mediums can be such a great way to kind of get over our inner critic and get into a new playful space.
Right.
Beginner's mind too. Yeah.
And if
that's awesome.
If you have time for one real quick story, it's about
love it. Yeah.
About COVID. And when COVID hit, I had absolutely no motivation to make art. Mm-hmm. And so I did everything else creative. I actually did some gardening. They've all died now, but
we already talked about that. You paint flowers. That's your form of gardening. Yeah.
It was getting to the point that it was frustrating that, I want to create. And so I've done some intuitive paint. A lot of times I'll start with a composition, but I'd say most of the time. But once in a while I'll do intuitive painting. So I just pulled out an old canvas and I started slapping paint on this canvas, and it changed and it changed, kept morphing, and the more I did it, the more I started to feel the energy. And all of a sudden, normally I do these like floral and bird themes, and all of a sudden there were these leopards in this. You can go on my page. It's called Leopard Garden. Yeah. And leopards, actually leopards are like a sign of perseverance. I mean, because I do like to look at the symbolism behind what in the imagery. Yeah. And so I love the piece just because of the fact that it was my route out of this rut. And
a breakthrough piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Way to go there and trust it.
Yeah. But sometimes the fear of getting in that brush in your hand, just do it. You can always paint over it.
Yeah, it's true. It feels easy sometimes, and sometimes it feels really frustrating. And I think it's just like watching progress over time and knowing that we'll go through these cycles of confidence and then doubt and then back
Right.
to confidence and then back
Absolutely.
on and on. Yeah.
From day to day.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we need each other, so that when we're out, we don't burn it all down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Oh, it's lovely to meet you. This is such a fabulous way to meet you. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share? Oh, you have the cutest name for your email list. Can you tell folks about that?
My newsletter.
Yeah.
Yes. My newsletter is called the Art Scoop. So if you want the scoop, you can go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. Yeah.
That's adorable. I love that.
Thanks. And then because I know you'll send me the post so I can post the recording. But for the locals in Sarasota, I will be doing a residency at the end of April at Art of April. So yeah.
So tell us just a bit about that. That's your artist in residence, and is that the community project as well?
Yes. Okay. So we have an art themed hotel. It's a Marriott here, and they do an artist in residence program. So I was selected to be their artist in residence for the end of April 25th to May 1st. And I'll give demos every evening from 4 to 8. And I'm a community project so that folks can come and participate in a piece of art that I'll be collaborating with, and I'll probably finish the piece and we'll raffle it off at the end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. So they can meet you, they can paint.
Yep.
It all goes, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. I know.
That you're in that.
It's a lot of the community outreach that's part of our Sarasota downtown art community development. So it's a great program.
I'd love to have you inside of Art Friends School, where we go deeper into these topics. Follow the link that's in the show notes or find it on my website at annamieka.com.